Ever since supersonic jets have been introduced in War Thunder, one thing that people have strived to do is the famed Pugachev's Cobra. We've finally been able to do it with a Draken, and as we approach even more maneuverable aircraft, the Pugachev's Cobra has become a litmus test of sorts when it comes to the maneuverability of an aircraft. With the confirmation of Generation 4 fighters, we are finally a step closer to the plane that started it all, the Sukhoi Su-27 Flanker. For this video, we will only discuss the base Flanker variant and the Su-27K. Later variants like the Flanker E, Flanker G, and the Chinese Flanker X and X2 will have their own separate videos. Without further ado, the Su-27 Flanker. The Su-27 Flanker shares its origin story with the MiG-29 Fulcrum. When the F-15 was the declared winner of the FX program stemming from the US overreaction to the MiG-25 threat, we will discuss that in the F-15 Ego video. Originally, it was a design competition for one fighter, the PFI or the Prospective Frontline Fighter. However, it became clear that the original PFI specifications contradicted each other, so at the behest of Artem Mikoyan, they opted to split the program into two facets, the lightweight PFI and the heavy PFI, mirroring the American concept of expensive air superiority fighters like the F-15 complemented by a cheap and lightweight supplementary fighter that is the F-16. Mikoyan's design fitted the LPFI, which pressed into service as the MiG-29, and the Sukhoi design fit the HPFI, which pressed into service as the Su-27. Here's a fun fact. The test pilot of the first Su-27 prototype was Vladimir Ilyushin, son of Sergei Ilyushin, the founder of the Ilyushin Design Bureau. The first production variant went into service with the designation Su-27S, NATO reporting name Flanker B. The Su-27 is a single-seat twin-engine fighter considered to be super maneuverable owing to its distinctive wing design that is a cross between a swept wing and a cropped delta wing with leading-edge root extensions for maneuverability at very high altitudes. It is powered by two Saturn AL-31F engines outputting 122.6 kN with afterburners. As a common feature of aircraft of this capability and era, the Su-27 features a twin rudder for stability and control authority. This allowed the plane to perform the Pugachev Cobra for the first time in 1989 when Viktor Pugachev performed it in the Paris Air Show. While Viktor Pugachev first popularized the maneuver, it was Valery Melinsky that first devised the maneuver as a training exercise. As part of the Soviet rugged machine meme, the Su-27 could operate off most makeshift runways that their Western counterparts would be unable to take off in. The Su-27K was a carrier-capable variant, most notable for the existence of canards on the tip of the leading edge. Other upgrades include foldable wings, heavier landing gear, and redesigned flaps for carrier approaches. The Su-27 was fitted with a Fazotron N001 mech radar. An improvement of the N019 Rubin, the mech was a pulse Doppler radar with excellent range. It could detect fighter-sized targets at 100 kilometers, and bomber-sized targets at 140 kilometers, and could start tracking them reliably at 65 kilometers and 80 kilometers respectively. While the radar is capable of track while scanned through S&P mode, it cannot guide weapons to multiple targets until the N001 VEP upgrade, which also includes R77 compatibility. The specific upgrade would be found on the Su-27 SM pre-production variant of the Su-35. The wingtips of the Su-27 could carry missiles, but it could also carry ECM pods. The Su-27 had 32 chaff and flares stored in the stinger between the engine exhausts. It also had the OEP S-27 IRST sensor in the top of the nose root with a laser rangefinder. The Su-27 was also utilizing the Shell 3U helmet-mounted sight. The Su-27, like the MiG-29, used a single GSH 30mm gun. Firing from the right leading edge root extension from behind the cockpit, it had 150 rounds. It had ammunition for both air and ground targets and had a rate of fire of 1,500 rounds per minute. For air-to-air engagements, the Su-27 was streamlined to fire only two kinds of missiles, the R-73 high over bore sight infrared missile using the Shell 3U helmet mounted sight for lock-on, and the R-27 missile. The Su-27 would finally mean the end of the R-60 era and would make the Su-27 very competitive with its stock missiles. The Su-27 could carry 10 missiles. Originally 12, the two wingtip rails were often fitted with ECM equipment. The Su-27 could carry 3 missiles per wing for a total of 6, and 4 missiles in the fuselage, 2 in tandem between the engines and 2 under the engine intakes. However, the stations on the fuselage are fitted only to carry R-27 missiles. Speaking of the R-27, in my opinion, the first generation Su-27s that would be added should not have the R-27E series at the same time. The first generation F-15 shouldn't have AIM-120Cs. It would be best to reserve the R-27E series for the Su-35 and Su-30 to pair with the R-77, and the F-15C and F-15E could get the latest AIM-120s. As the Su-27 was optimized for the air defense role, with the Su-27P not receiving air-to-ground weapons entirely, the Su-27S only had basic ground ordnance. It could carry the standard S-8, S-13, and S-25 rockets, and the Fab 500 bomb, and these were almost never carried. It would not be until the Su-30 that the flanker could use guided air-to-ground ordnance. The Su-27K was no different, except carrying the anti-ship missiles KH-31 and KH-41, and anti-radiation missiles KH-25MP and KH-31P. I believe the Su-27 should come into the game in 3 variants. The Su-27S production variant with all the aforementioned bells and whistles, the Su-27P air defense and interceptor variant with no ground ordnance. I believe this one might become a premium vehicle or event reward, just so Gaijin can say they added an inferior Su-27 as a premium or event vehicle, and the carrier-capable Su-27K. Since all 3 aircraft have similar equipment, it would not be a bad idea to folder the Su-27P and Su-27K under the Su-27S. Though I believe they would only do this when the later generations Su-30 and Su-35 have been added. The Su-27 would be one of the candidates for Tier 8 aircraft if ever that becomes a thing. But for the time being, it is of course Tier 7 with a proposed battle rating of 13.0 for all variants. This and the F-15 should not be fighting stuff like the F-4J and MiG-23 MLA with the amount of weapons they can carry. I don't think the aircraft should be gimped with the amount of weapons it can carry for balance, just to lower its BR. It's better to just expand the BRs and accommodate such powerful aircraft. One contention about the Su-27, however, is its placement in the USSR tech tree. There have been proposals to place it in the MiG line as it is an air superiority fighter like the MiG-23 MLD and MiG-21 BIS, whereas its predecessors are the Se-17 M2 and Se-7B strike fighters. While I see their side, especially considering the MiG-25 and MiG-31, I believe that the Su-27 after the Su-17 is more uniform and makes more sense than rearranging the Russian top-tier lines by role. As for the RP cost, they should all be 400,000 RP at 1,080,000 SL purchase cost each and 380,000 SL crew train cost. An interesting event vehicle for the Su-27 would be the T-10S Blue 10 prototype, lacking in flares and using the earlier AL-21F3 engine, outputting a lower 109 kilonewtons of thrust. It would be a good event vehicle to be given away. The Su-27 is a legendary fighter with an even more legendary tenure. From its victories in the Eritrean-Ethiopian War against MiG-29 to its stalwart vanguard of the Ukrainian airspace in the present-day conflict, the Su-27 has proven its strength over and over again, and I believe that in due time, the Su-27 will also play this role in War Thunder. So that's about it for the Su-27. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I am announcing a new series where I'd make a series of videos covering proper jet gameplay in War Thunder based on what I know in the 6 years I've been flying jets, from the Me-262 and Meteor to the F-4J and MiG-23 MLD of today. Once again, this is the Dr. MD. Godspeed.